seeing Ted Nugent in my fucking threads on Twitter. I don't block people. I don't know why I keep seeing them. Maybe because I'm into rock and roll and shit, but I'm just kidding. There are some songs that Ted Nugent does that are. But this is some R. Kelly shit. That's what this is. Teddy Theodore Nugent. Right? Right? This guy doesn't know. This guy doesn't know how conservatives saw him when he was on the stage. I know how conservatives saw him because it was part of the queer phobia that I experienced when I was younger. What? That is not even the right monitor. What's going on here? What? You're not gonna let me? You're not gonna let me? That's messed up, dude. Oh, if I do this. Uh-huh. Now, there is a reason I'm showing this. Now, I don't care about the rest of it, but you see his old picture on the right? You see this? Ooh, conservatives' moms hated that. Do you know why? Because he crossed the gender boundaries. Got that long hair and those tight pants and dressed up like he was a fucking woman. You know that's what that song Turn the Page is, that one particular verse. Is it a woman? Is it a man? All of this shit that he's talking right now. All of it was caused by him. And he doesn't know. He thinks he was always on the right side. Nah, dude, this guy was left as fuck. I don't know what it is when you hit that age, man. Maybe he was only in it for the fame. I'm only bringing him up because his tweets, dude, are just annoying. You heard that song, that last song that was in there, right? Yeah. Damn, dude. Because it's like, it's one of those things. Like, Ted Nugent and a lot of his songs were iconic. It's really hard to just let go of that. Okay, sorry. I am currently wearing my all white outfit from last night so that I can look, um, so I can fit in with the other white people right now. I'm sorry about that. Sex, drugs, and rock and roll. Ted Nugent claims he was part of the straight edge movement. I doubt it. Maybe later. Maybe in his later years. I haven't lost it yet. I'm sorry. I'm still looking for a place to lose it. Figure it out though, right? So, he just kind of popped up on my feed and annoyed me. What I wanted to do this stream about, was to clarify a few things. I saw somebody talking about John Money, I think. Let me read up on his. Make sure I got the wrong guy. Right guy. Raymer. Yeah, that's just him. So he was right that gender is a social construct. But gender, like the words, are something that we apply on top of something. Like, you look at an apple and you call it an apple. You look at an orange, you call it an orange. But in this case, we're not talking about the apple and the orange specifically. If you bit into an apple and it tasted like an orange, what would you call it? Right? It's the same thing. Like bitter, sweet, all those flavors, those internal flavors that you can't really tell until you bite into something. That's what I'm talking about. That's what we're talking about when we talk about gender. You have the physical sex, the physical appearance of somebody that you can decide is man or woman or whatever you feel like. But then you ignore that there are intersex people, and you ignore people like David Raymer. David Raymer is not the only person to have a botched surgery, a botched circumcision like that. He's not. This is why we talk about what we call assigned X at birth, assigned male at birth. David Raymer, because of his botched surgery, was assigned female at birth. That's what he was assigned. That's what he was told that he was. I was assigned male at birth. That's what I was told I was. There's no argument about that, right? It was against his decision, Raymer's, as a very small baby, to be assigned male. There are a lot of babies in Raymer's position that get assigned that way. Intersex kids. People that are born different. And they are given surgery to literally trans them into the gender that they think they would fit better and then raised that way. That's why we have the term assigned gender at birth. And the reason why trans people hate money, because he literally forced an identity onto somebody, which is what trans people are trying to fight against, forcing identities on people. So, for example, there are still a lot of people that call me a man. They force that identity on me. No matter how many times I say, I am not, I am me. They say, no, this is what you are. You should act like this. You should dress like this. You should look like this. The same thing that happened to David Raymer when they botched his circumcision and subsequently rebranded him as a girl. But he knew he wasn't a girl. That's the same thing with me. And a lot of trans kids. And a lot of intersex kids. And a lot of people. And the thing about those surgeries is David Raymer was lucky that somebody told him that his surgery was botched and that he was born a man. They won't tell you because they think it will cause confusion and drive you nuts and crazy. For David Raymer, it was a godsend that somebody fucking told him. Said, oh, that makes so much fucking sense. I'm a dude. I'm gonna be a dude. Now imagine if you didn't have that botched surgery and you still felt that way. What relief do you get? You get people telling you, no, you were born this way. This is what you are. I'm sorry. I understand why John Money is an annoying prick. But he's not Dr. Trans person. He has no shit. He's a pervert. And he did a lot of things that he should not have done. Should not have been allowed to do. Because, one, the child didn't have consent. Two, they weren't informed of what had happened at their birth. They were just going to sweep it under the rug. And three, what was that? The one where he did experiments? Some of these things he did that are useful. But that one thing that he did was fucked up. And it should never happen again. But at the same time, how do you know you're not talking to the next David when you call him Brenda? You don't. That's the problem. This guy had Parkinson's. Got a lot of terms to the light that are very useful for us. it proves that you can't tell somebody what gender they are when they already know. The problem with fame and what's the word? Reputation is that if you don't have any of those and you're trying to define something that doesn't exist and you're bringing it to somebody, trying to bring it to the world's attention, nobody's going to believe you without that reputation, without that level of fame or clout. John Money had that clout. So when people come to him about their ideas on being transgender, for example, trans women that are just trying to figure out what they are, go up to him and tell him their experiences, he gets the profit on it. He gets the credit for all of that discovery. Because he has the fame, the clout, and the pull and the money in order to do that. So he did that. And in so doing, the one thing that he should not have done, he did. Because he did not understand what it meant to be trans, because he was not trans. He was just the doctor with the clout. And he misunderstood gender the same way everybody does today. They think you can force a gender on a person, and you cannot. It is a social construct, but it's not something you force on somebody. It's something that you see and identify. We have words to identify those things. But we don't, like, I'm trying to figure out a way to say this because if I say it, everybody will immediately latch on to the physical. But it's deeper than that. Like biting into an apple and finding out that was not an apple, it was an orange. See, I was pretty attractive as a man. Probably more attractive as a man than I am as a woman. I will give you that. The problem is, I didn't act like a man. I didn't do the things I was supposed to that filled that masculine role. And people saw that. And they identified it. They said, "Why don't you act this way?" And that's not me. Right? I'm Melon. I'm me. I do what I want. And people started saying, "Well, you do very feminine things." Okay, yeah. So they didn't make me feminine. I was already feminine. I was trying to fit myself into that masculine role for 30 some years. I tried not being trans, as I'm sure that David did too. He tried fitting into the roles prescribed to him. So now we go to gender affirming care. of minors. And how do we avoid making the same mistake as David Raymer? And the first one is don't perform circumcisions. Because a botched circumcision could lead to being reassigned. Look, these surgeries that they perform on kids, they're not trans stuff. We don't vouch for them. We don't like them. Kids, as babies, are given surgeries to be more masculine or feminine based on what the doctors think they are. This is not gender reassignment surgery. It is not considered gender reassignment surgery under the law or under the medicals. Because it is considered a corrective surgery to match the appropriate gender that the baby was born with. This includes circumcision, clitoris removal, if genitalia looks ambiguous, it automatically gets reassigned to whichever one the doctor feels it looks more like. Trans people, queer people, intersex people, they all say, stop doing that shit. Unless it's life-threatening. But nobody listens to us. I say, no, you're just not allowed to have trans kids, but you're allowed to make them. Because that fits this idea. So yeah, I understand why people don't like money, and I understand why they use the David Raymer case in this. But you're focusing too hard on trans people when you should be focusing on the establishment that performs surgeries on these babies in order to make them fit the gender norms. Assign them those gender roles that now we have to deal with when we grow older. So the question, what we can learn from this, David Raymer. David Raymer went to his parents and said, I'm not a girl, I'm a boy. Now, if a kid does that in this day and age, they go up to their parents, or they tell a school official in Texas, what happens to that kid? What happens to those parents? Brenda doesn't become David. Brenda gets mentally abused and said, no, you were born a woman, you get to stay that way. That's what we're talking about as trans individuals and gender affirming care. Just stop denying the reality of the children, that child's reality. There are lots of things that gender affirming care means. Allowing them to dress up however they please is one of them. Allowing them to do things like cook and clean, or to run around and shoot Nerf guns is gender affirming care. You know, not making them act like a proper woman or a proper man, which happens a lot, doesn't it? We have whole camps dedicated to training effeminate boys to be proper men. How much has that worked? Sure is a booming industry, but it has never fixed anybody. Beauty pageants, Girl Scouts, Boy Scouts, all of these things can be gender affirming care, and they don't require surgery, and they don't require hormones or hormone blockers. But in the cases where they are adamant, like Brenda, where she goes up and she says, "This is not right. I need this to stop. I will kill myself." That is where hormone blockers are used. Or rather, where they should be used. What, dude? So, yeah, those kinds of surgeries should not be performed on babies. We agree on that. Good job. That's not what we're advocating for. We're not advocating to perform surgery on babies. So we agree there. And yet they still perform surgeries on babies uh, as long as they're not trans. And no, we're not advocating for surgery on children either. We're advocating for letting boys grow their hair out. Let girls get short pixie cuts if they feel like it, or to dress whatever they feel like, or have more androgynous clothing. And not to force kids into the gender roles. And when a kid says, "I am definitely not a Brenda, I feel more like a David," then we listen to them instead of putting them into sexually precarious positions in order to make them realize what they really are. The trans ideology is that of breaking these gender roles, breaking these stereotypes, because we don't like what society has prescribed to us because it doesn't fit. And a lot of this discourse is going to create more Davids, more Brentas, because that's what it created before. I understand the fear, but when you let the fear control you, then you let it cause more damage to other people and cause more fear. Just take the time. Why does this only show the same freaking monitor? What did I do? Like, I don't know what's up with my video drivers, but they are not working after whatever I did to them last night. They weren't working for me last night either. I wonder what happened. Somebody messing with my wicks. Oh, it's 8:30. I forgot I put that on a timer. Hey, get out of here.
Well,
No,
howdy
get
there,
out of here.
Internet people. It's Bo again.
Get out of here.
So today we are.
Get out of here. And more to say, but this has kind of soured my mood. I have all of my assets for that card game I'm working on. Let's put that together. But I wasn't able to find somebody to make a shader, unfortunately. So I might have to figure out how to write a shader. I don't even understand how they work. In short, why is the pockets where the boobs are? That doesn't make any sense. No, it does. It definitely does. Ah. I'm trying to think of a better way to phrase things. Oh, what's next on the agenda? Be gay, do crime. Be gay, do crime. So, there was a lot of farmers, a lot of conservative farmers that, set up weed farms and they did it. They did it on their own land, far away from society, and they couldn't rely on the police officers to protect their stuff, so they had to arm themselves and become their own militias. And that was just for farming marijuana. What they were doing was illegal. And I'm only saying this because I know that I can appeal to that base, because they're the ones that will understand me when I talk about what it means be gay, do crime. You know, if it is illegal to be gay, if it is illegal to be transgender, what does that mean? What does that mean for anybody that is queer or queer coded? It means that we're already committing a crime just by being alive. There are biracial people in Africa that know what that feels like. And I know that because I watched Trevor Noah. Now, there are probably still people in America that knows what it feels like to be a certain race and be illegal for being that race. If you are already illegal in your homeland, one of those arguments about gays being illegal in certain countries is like, well, if it's legal there, just don't be gay there. Oh yeah, sure. Let me just turn this off real quick. Let me just turn it all off and just stop being gay. Remember, I told you, like I grew up in an era where, I got made fun of for acting girly, and not just made fun of. I had to adopt a very tough persona in order to get all that to stop because fighting back didn't work. It just made people hate you more because you could have just stopped being gay. Why don't you just stop acting like a girl and then we wouldn't make fun of you? That's what that sounds like to me. Except it's on a bigger scale, a legal scale, one that where I really could go to prison. for being gay, for being trans. It is in the realm of possibility that just by existing, not even as my post transition self, just existing before this, before all this, because of the way that I act, because of the way my behaviors were. Not even with painted nails, even with short hair, even dressed up in a military uniform following all of the regulations. I was still called out for it. All the masculine regulations, even. Same thing. If I can't avoid being that person that's illegal, well then what else am I gonna do? It's illegal. Like, the punishment for existing, being illegal, means that anything else you can do doesn't matter. Like, I've already broken the law. I am gay and therefore have committed a crime. And that is the crime that everybody focuses on. So it doesn't matter what else I do in order to survive. Nobody cares. Absolutely nobody cares about the other stuff. That's why, straight white men can get away with committing whatever atrocities they want, whereas minorities and queers, they've already committed the crime of not being white, not being cis, not being straight. Because they've already committed those crimes. They are, in fact, criminals. Every other crime that they commit is just proof that that's what they are. It's like a fucked up double standard. But, certain people don't get that privilege, or they don't understand that they have that privilege. And it's really hard to explain that to somebody that doesn't see that happening. So I don't get away with anything. I've been to jail a few times. Yeah, probably. But have you been to jail for being not white? Have you been to jail for being off white? Have you been to jail for acting queer? Because that's how pedophiles act. I doubt that. That's a form of privilege too. And why we say it's baked into the system. It's baked in. You don't have to experience it for it to be there. But it's really hard to explain to people that don't understand it. You have to simplify it. And that's one of the things that, because I've been looking at I've been watching other queer people's videos, and I understand why people just don't understand them, because they're talking at such a high level that it doesn't even matter. And And I don't mean like high level, like smart level. I mean like 5D chess level. Like you gotta talk like a human being. Talk like a human being to the human beings. And that's really hard sometimes because we're already at this point where we're focused on why are we just treated this way for no reason? And then to see all the reasons come out, explaining all of the wrong things that trans people did. You're like, well, I haven't done those things. What if I blamed you for slavery? Hmm. What if we blamed white people, all of the white people, for slavery? I get to say that. I would be in that mix because that is my lot in life. I get to experience all of the different things, apparently. See, that's why people talk about these double standards, like with R. Kelly and with Ted Nugent. Because we see people commit the same crimes and one gets to get away with it and one doesn't. And then they're like, well, would you want a criminal to get away with it? And we're like, no, we would not. But what about that guy that did get away with it? Right? I'm not confused. I am not alleging anything towards anybody. I'm just talking about music, okay? Don't take me seriously unless you find out that, I'm actually right and then take me seriously. But I don't have any information to back me up on anything or to allege anything. These are the things that people see. A lot of the arguments that people make. And it's very frustrating. It's like, well, if I have to be absolutely perfectly pristine, if I have to wear these white clothes, you're going to see every single stain on it. Every single one. Especially if you use a black light. I can't even like bleach this to make it like pristine white again because then it turns to like that dingy, just off white where it just looks wrong. You know what I mean? Mm. I don't know. Maybe I can ask the KKK how they get their the blood stains out of their robes. Sorry, that one was rude. But I mean, if they're good at one thing, that must be it, right? I got peppermint patties. If they're good at one thing, that must be it. See, mob justice is often looked at as, the people bringing torches and pitchforks towards, the rich lord, the rich king, Dr. Frankenstein. People that have power over other people. But it also affects minorities, like all of the pitchforks that make it illegal for one trans kid to play in sports. This isn't just like trans women banned from playing in women's sports. It's trans men banned from playing in men's sports, and vice versa. No trans kids in any trans sports. No trans sports. Imagine if you're one kid, and you have to face down that mob of people. That's why a lot of us elder trannies are so protective of trans kids, of queer kids, because we know what it feels like to have the entire world against you, to have all of your friends and families and your community, everybody, against you for seemingly no reason. And we're the only safe places are with cis straight men who are sexual predators, who use it as a form of dominance and power. We know what that feels like. Do you? You accuse us of it because that's the kind of people that you see queer kids hanging out with, right? Choosing the lesser of two evils isn't good, it's prison. You know, every single choice that I made up until the point I decided to transition was the right one. Every single one. I made mistakes. Don't get me wrong. And I struggled with some things. Everybody struggles with things growing up, right? Everybody's supposed to struggle with their gender identity and their identity overall in high school. Unless you're not allowed to, like me. Because being queer, being trans is wrong. So I had to stuff that stuff down and just not grow up until I chose to. gay, do crime. Be gay, be crime. There's gonna be a lot of people that are like, well, I never said it was not okay to be queer or gay or whatever. I'm like, yeah, maybe. But do you know all those people that were insulting me that you were standing right next to? That makes you an accomplice. You didn't perform the act, but you didn't do anything about it. Not a single thing. Nope, I had to do something about it. I had to deal with it. I had to grow a thicker skin. Every single time it got worse, I had to be the one to be the bigger person, to grow the thicker skin. I, I don't even have to say it out loud, right? Like, that is still, right now, to this day, all these snowflakes just need to grow a thicker skin. Mm-hmm. Yep, that's correct. It's always there. It's always been there. Because people don't want to admit that they've been a douchebag. Yet it's there. Teachers don't want to protect students from other students. Just let them fight it out. Oh, wow. I really have been protected by people. I'm remembering that teacher I had. I was removed from her class. And how she said, if you just get an A, you can come back. I like that teacher. No, she was a mental terrorist too. Making everybody else look like the villain. So that's what we thought when we had the our classes split up the way they were. One class was for the smartest kid, and one was for the dumbest, and then there was one in the middle. And that teacher was. This wasn't special ed, this was just like elementary school stuff. It was so dumb. Like fifth grade elementary school stuff. Maybe I should have never come back to Michigan. Must have been just that. Hanger on that charity case. I'm gonna take a break. I want to play Dead Space after this. I'll be back. Oh, I actually, you know what? I just realized something. I might not be able to record. Oh, shit. I forgot something.